This is a leaked video of soldiers setting up a check stop inside a Beijing residence compound for military officials, and they allegedly check each car's plate and anyone going in and out must be tracked. Although the soldiers are not armed, they are in fact in riot gears, and they're subjecting anybody going in and out of this compound to restrictions and basically have to follow their orders.
啊？这里是军事管制区。什么军事管制区？这是家属院，什么军事管制区？啊？现在都是执行秘密任务，你们不能开车。你们被骗了，知道吗？你们应该保家卫国，你们这是干什么呢？
And the woman in the video loudly voices her discontent with the situation. She kept repeating that the Chinese military, the soldiers, are targeting their own. This is likely an order from above, obviously a different part of the Chinese military that is now targeting this part.
你按照62号文件，他可以查车，但是是什么？他开门进，大家都有登记，登记完了能进来的就进来，如果进不来的、刷不开的，你可以查车，对不对？我们又不是不讲理的人，你随便谁出去5分钟都要查一下，5分钟都要查一下，你们觉得合适吗？已经严重影响到我们生活了。对呀，上百人站在这里是干什么呀？看这咋回事啊？我这你们上百人站这里。
You can tell these aren't just regular wives, but they're military wives, and they're likely spouses of pretty high military officials, and the way that they're talking to these soldiers are like mothers scolding their sons. You can't do that unless you're part of the system and you understand what's going on. Now, from my point of view, I see something going on in the military. Likely, Xi Jinping has ordered a stability factor controlling the movement of these particular part of the military. It's no wonder Xi Jinping looks like this in the latest video. Yeah, I wouldn't be too happy if your closely trusted confidants all ended up getting purged. Jokes aside, it's getting quite serious. Welcome to this episode of Elite Politics, where we discuss the latest rounds of information and rumors surrounding the Chinese Communist Party and what's happening within the power struggle. Even going out of this compound for 5 minutes requires you to check with the soldiers. The woman says it's unnecessary as every car and person is registered, so only have to check on those who are coming back as unregistered to ensure that the process goes smoothly for everyone. But except that's not what seems like the soldiers want to do.
这是人民子弟兵啊！你看看怎么对人民呢？他们不用来保家卫国，他们是用来强行防御的。对老百姓这样。
Now, it's unclear when the video was shot, but the video was leaked very recently. Now, I picked out some of the important moments from the 9-minute video. There clearly is a heightened sense of watching these military families, and particularly the officials, controlling them.
你碰我一下试试。
请把照片删了。
你执行什么任务？这是家属院，这是居民区，你执行什么任务？你们被骗了，知道吗？你们应该保家卫国，你们这是干什么呢？打电话报警了吗？
报警了，
报警，警察来吧。你影响到我们正常生活了。什么军事管理区？这里是家属区，这是家属区，设什么密了？设什么密了？
我们军装就设密
啊！你的军装设密，那你为什么要在这家属区啊？你军装设密，你应该上里面办公区，这是办公区，你可以去办公区。他们应该去保家卫国去，他们在这儿干嘛呢？这是
人民子弟兵。
啊，对对对，这就是人民子弟兵。哎呀，他们被骗了，被某些人就别有用心的人骗了。
报警。这样就拍不上了，
对，这样就拍不上了。
你拍他也行，拍他这个板也行，
没关系，没关系，没关系。嗯，对。
你是干嘛搞得像敌人似的？这敌对。
对呀，你这是人民子弟兵，看到吗？对，这是人民子弟兵。对。
One point in the video that she keeps repeating, which stood out to me, was that she says, you guys are people soldiers, which means you're supposed to defend the borders. And she says that you're supposed to defend the country, not target the people, and that you're being fooled by certain people. Now, we have some senses as to guesses what she means by certain people, but obviously this is something that the soldiers are complaining to be leaking state secrets. And we haven't heard much from, there's no other videos that's come out from this person, and so we really don't know what happened and whether she was punished or reprimanded for this or not. It's clear that the soldiers were ordered by somebody from high above, and they need the people inside the residence to stay put during a certain time or during a certain event. And these are just some of the details we're able to sort of conclude from the exchange between that woman who was filming and some of the soldiers. There's clearly an internal struggle here within the military, And it's something that's very important to watch for. And it also relates to an upcoming third plenum, which we'll talk about in just a second. It's worth noting that the location of the compound likely houses the General Staff Intelligence Department, or, it's basically military intelligence. And this is based on the video where she says that the location is number 87 Courtyard in Shangshan South Road in Beijing. Now, by the time you watch this video, Xi Jinping would have begun the 3 to 5 days of the third plenary session, or the third plenum, which on the surface says it focuses on the financial and economic decisions. In reality, a lot of time it's to do with the political decisions. Now, it's very normal that ahead of any important meetings, because they are to do with power and a lot of times political struggles, that you need to ensure all sides are stable and they're not making any sudden moves. And this is, again, it fits in the lines of ensuring maximum stability, that maybe a video like this will come out ahead of that. Now, this is also a period for information warfare, so we're getting a lot of different information, many of them truth, a lot of them are lies, but it's an interesting time because all sides within the Chinese Communist Party wants to deliver a facade. Things are looking a certain way. So we're going to cover some of the recent, very juicy, sort of churned out rumors from the rumor mills in China, and as well as try to analyze if they have some sense to them. And the best part is, for this time around, it's going to get confirmed whether or refuted within the next 3 to 5 days. And the biggest one of it all has to do, again, with the 2 former defense ministers who were purged. Now, this is according to South China Morning Post, and it reveals that one of the former defense ministers, his name is Wei Fenghe, might have conspired with hostile forces or foreign forces, which means he could have leaked important intelligence, military intelligence, to a foreign force, and that could be one of the reasons that led to his downfall. Another defense minister, again, former defense minister Li Shangfu, did something much worse, and the 2 of them could receive the potential for capital punishment. Again, this is going to be confirmed very soon, or denied very soon. And it also has everything to do with the preparedness of the military for the Taiwan invasion. Now, particularly Li Shangfu might be having the worst outcome of the 2. According to Australian writer Yuan Hongbing, who has recently come out with many shocking information from within the party, and he says that Li Shangfu could be facing the capital punishment due to his own sort of ways of treason. In fact, Wei Fenghe, the other defense minister, is sort of an accomplice, so he might even get the lighter version of the 2 sentence. And this, among with other generals of the Rocket Force, which we've been talking about over the past year, they're all sort of part of this entirety of the purge. But the worst of it all is the defense minister, Li Shangfu. The rumor alleges that within a certain level of the military system, they've been notified of the crimes for both Li and Wei. Li, in private conversations, allegedly on multiple occasions, said that 73 and 84 are 2 life hurdles for a person. And he says that the fat man whose life has been emptied by wine and lust won't survive the 84 hurdle. Obviously, the fat man he's referring to Xi Jinping. But the idea here is that Chinese people believe that 73 and 84 are 2 ages, or hurdles of them, where the king of hell will come to get them. Basically, it means that if you survive the 73 or the 84 hurdle, you'll live for how many more years. But it actually originally started because Confucius lived until before he was 73, and Mencius, another scholar, lived until he was 83. So you see, they didn't really survive the hurdle, and that's where it sort of originated from. But basically, Li Shangfu was insinuating the fact that Xi Jinping likely won't live until he's 84. Obviously, wishing the death of Xi is a big no-no, but it's even worse considering that Xi Jinping promoted Li Shangfu despite the pressure from the US sanctions against Li. So Xi Jinping really trusted Li Shangfu. This was one of his close confidants. And yet behind the scenes, or behind his back, Li was secretly, hating Xi Jinping. That's pretty bad. Li was also allegedly growing his own sort of influence, building his own faction, and using his position of power to develop his own talents, trying to come up with his own power base. Again, this forming of cliques and groups is, again, not a good scenario to be in if you get caught. And Li also allegedly believed in the failing of the Taiwan invasion scenario, which was popularized by another general. But again, this idea that you were the defense minister for the CCP and you believed in that invading Taiwan would fail, that's pretty bad. So what Xi Jinping did was he wrote a one-line verdict on the sentencing of Li Shangfu, which was that this person has the crime of opposing the party and rebelling against the army, which is extremely heinous, and that he should be sentenced to death. Again, this will be confirmed or denied very soon, so we don't even have to wait for, a month or so to find out. We'll just find out next week. Now, obviously, this also tells us that no matter how loyal these people seem on the outside to Xi, even as their officials are repeating all these, various different ideologies and concepts that Xi Jinping has created or endorsing it, behind the scenes, these people are just hating Xi Jinping. But there's also an unspoken rule within the CCP, which is that no matter how many, power struggles, how many behind the scenes negotiations, sorts of back and forth, in-party fighting, all of these things, the bottom line is blood should never be spilled. And it seems like Xi Jinping wants to break that. And this was written by a former party elder to ensure that at the end of the day, things like this don't happen, because once they do, it breaks the party, right? It starts to have these, instead of using diplomacy and using other means to solve the problem, now it's basically a show of force. Who has a bigger fist, who wins. So it will be unprecedented if Xi Jinping decides to eliminate this bottom line and to say that Li Shangfu, his accomplices, all these others, associated generals and whoever else needs to be eliminated in order to, have him reign in the control of the military. That's just, it opens up an unknown area in which basically we've never seen this happen except back in like the Mao Zedong era. One of the reasons why this is unprecedented, if it does happen, is that Li Shangfu comes from a red family. He's also a vice national level minister, which means that at certain points you used to enjoy this immunity in which you reach a certain level within the party, you will never face the capital punishment, right? You could lose your power, you could lose your position, your wealth, but you will never lose your life. But now that's going away, apparently. What you used to have was an immunity token that allowed you to play the game with some levels of the risk involved, right? Like you kind of have the minimum amount of token chips to play with. That's gone now. So there's really, all these different factions used to rely on their generational access to political power are now subjected to the same level of danger that they thought they were not a part of. So how are these people going to react? Are they going to sit and watch they're slowly essentially marching to their end, or are they going to rise up and do something quite extreme? The answer is now less chances of that happening. Because, there's a lot of surveillance on these people, as we've seen in those videos. But also, it's just, I think people are just not given the opportunity to do that anymore. That's why it also makes sense to me that these sort of resentments, wishing Xi's death, or just behind the scenes private conversations are happening, because they know that they can't really form any concrete actions against Xi. Now, why would Xi Jinping so desperately want to break this sort of bottom line? Well, I think it has a lot to do with the invasion of Taiwan. And he's really dead set on doing it, because if he does not rein in the military on time, he just simply cannot start the invasion, right? You have so many people in the military who believes in the idea that invading Taiwan is going to lead to a catastrophic failure within the party, that they're likely not going to do it. So Xi Jinping's only way is to purge those people. Does that mean that at the end of the day, he's going to replace them all with his so-called, believers? Probably not, because maybe those are also on the lines of, secretly anti-Xi Jinping. It's a big unknown area right now. It also tells us that within the military, he's not that popular. He doesn't have full control of it. And I'm also hearing from people that they're getting called back in China. They're in their 30s and 40s into training. Now, these are, retired. These are veterans. And yet they're going back into training. Clearly, there's only one reason for it, and that's, again, for the Taiwan invasion.